welcome to another episode of I Take
D.
I'm Joel.
And I am Carla.
So we welcome you to another episode. We're on Facebook. This is the I Take D ministry. Today's topic is deadly killers in marriage. And we want to just touch on a couple points. There's a lot more killers out there of marriage. And when we talk about killers, we're really talking about attitudes and ways that we act towards a marriage that could potentially kill what we started. And so we're going to talk about anger, unforgiveness, and we put unforgiveness / pride, and we'll talk about why. Lust, lack of trust, and unwillingness to change.
Yes.
We're going to use Ephesians 4:2, which says, "Be completely humble and gentle, be patient, bearing with one another in love." So let's start with anger. I mean, when we talk about anger in marriage and as a deadly killer, what comes to mind even in our own marriage?
I mean, I think the one of the things that come to my mind is when you have gone through something at work, or someone did something to you, and then all this bitterness and all this anger. When I look at anger in a marriage, I look at it if when someone else upset me, or I had a bad day, and I go home and I express that frustration towards my spouse.
Yeah.
That because I'm angry with someone else, now I'm taking that anger against my spouse. And sometimes it just comes because you're just been building it up for so long, and now you think that your spouse is that vulnerable person that's like, now I'm gonna lash on this one. And I think anger comes also from our history, from how we were raised as well. And I think that caused certain frictions in the marriage.
Yeah, I think so many of us just have a hard time even trying to handle anger, right? And there's nothing wrong with getting angry. I think that's just a natural reaction when something happens to us. But how you handle that is what makes the difference between hurting someone's feelings or not hurting someone's feelings. In this case, being your spouse. Sometimes we get angry at our own spouse for something they've done. It's happened to us so many different times, and I've been in that place where, I remember, at one time I just had a very hard time handling my anger, and I can share one example very quickly. We were on like Weathersfield. It's like where it turns like those who know about Hartford. It's a very interesting intersection. It's very busy, and so I'm waiting at the light. And I'm with my wife. We've been like a year married into that, and I really was dealing with some anger issues. And we're waiting at the light, and this guy, we're both at a red light. He just cuts me off, and the way he cuts me off as the light turns green is that our car ends up almost in the ditch. And I was so angry that at the very next light, he ends up stopping. And he's only one car ahead of me. So what do? I let my anger get the best of me. I literally put the car on park in the middle of us waiting for the red light to turn green. I get up the car. I go towards the guy's car with an umbrella, I think is what I had. I had something in my hand. I don't even remember. And I literally start hitting like his car. And I didn't even realize that I'm doing this. Who knows what the guy in the car has that could potentially end up in a very ugly situation. But I forgot I had a wife and a young child at that time. Our oldest was maybe 3 years old, in my own car. And so I let anger get the best of me. And then I get in the car, and Carla's like, what are you doing? And now I'm angry at you. I was angry at you for, you should be defending me, and look what he did to us, and you're my family. But little by little, God started working in my life, and I needed to understand that just because I'm angry does not give me the right of way or the reason to act in an angry and ugly way.
I mean, and that leads up to us disrespecting each other and being unloving to each other.
Oh yeah,
right?
that's
because now I always look at anger like a thermometer. It just slightly going over and over, hot, and then hotter, and then it explodes, right? So that's how I look at our anger sometimes. And sometimes when it blows up, it's so high, you begin to lash certain words, certain things that then you can never take back.
Yeah.
And that now caused the other person to be more angrier, and it you know brings insult and bring all the other things.
You say things that you literally regret saying, but
Exactly.
once you say them, the Bible says that what you say with your lips is like a pen. The Bible says that our lips are pens who write things in the hearts of anyone in our lives. So we got to be careful with what we
have
say.
to be conscious of that. And, you know, and I have heard couples even say, well, I don't remember saying that. Sometimes when you're so consumed with anger, you don't even remember the words that comes out of your mouth.
Or the things that you do.
Or the things that you do. But just remember, whatever you lash out, I always say, is whatever you have been burying inside your heart.
Yeah, you just have to be very careful. Anger could take us in very ugly ways, and we don't want to be there. And if you do have anger issues, there are so many different ways you can address it. One is admitting, and two, you can get help from a therapist. You can go see a Christian therapist. If you want names of Christian therapists, send us a private message. We have friends who are therapists and clinicians and counselors who can help you with that process of anger.
Because then that's exactly a deadly killer in your relationship.
Oh yes, it is. Which take us to the next one, which is unforgiveness and pride. Pride meaning you don't want to admit. You think you don't have an issue. I'm good. I don't need no therapist. I don't need no counselor. We can deal with this within our own home. Yet you're dying inside. It's killing your marriage because you think you got it all together. And I had to realize that. Look, in Puerto Rican families, men always have this pride about themselves. And then to top it all, I was in the military. And for me, that pride, there's nothing wrong with healthy pride, but there is something wrong when you think that you don't need anybody and that you don't need anything, and that can kill your marriage.
Absolutely. I think, pride is something that just it doesn't allow you to even admit that you're wrong. Like deep down inside, you're wrong, you screwed up, you were disrespectful, unloving, but your pride takes you to a way that's like, I'm never going to admit that. I'm never going to say anything.
Which then takes you to not forgiving,
exactly.
Right? Or asking for forgiveness, both.
Exactly. And that plays along. That's why we always say unforgiveness and pride is just... It's a killer.
Yeah.
It comes together because when your pride takes over, there is no way as much as you understand and know forgiveness is the way to become set free of that. Pride will never let you.
Yeah, we have to let go of those things. We have to bring the guards down within our own marriage and be vulnerable within our own marriage. The spouse that's like, for example, if I'm dealing with pride, what I suggest for the other spouse is to just be patient.
Yes.
With that process, because now that I admit, don't use it as an opportunity. Now that I'm vulnerable, don't use it as an opportunity to kick me while I'm down. Help me out. And in the same way, like if that's where she's at, that I can be a support to her, and that we can support each other through our weaknesses.
And I think it's important because believe it or not, your spouse, your significant other needs to hear those words. I'm sorry, I messed up. You can't well, she knows I messed up. She tells me all the time. Or he knows I messed up. He tells me all the time. They need to hear from you. It's so important when you hear from your spouse, you know what, I screwed up. Even though you knew they screwed up. If you're just you admitting that removes pride from your heart and takes you to forgiveness.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I have to admit that I screwed up. How about lust? That's lust is a strong sexual desire. And when we talk about that, you say, well, strong sexual desire. What if I, desire my wife? No, the lust is desiring something that doesn't belong to you. So why do we say that's a killer? Well, because once you start desiring something else, you stop paying attention and desiring what's right in front of you, which is your spouse. You chose them. You made that selection when you chose to get married. You went through that process of coming together. And when you went on that altar and you said, I do, I take thee, you literally said no to other women or other men. You said no to them. So by me saying I do to Carla, what I technically said is to other women, was no. I say yes to you, I said no to others. So lust, when you start paying attention to other, which we talked about this, the grass is greener on the other side syndrome, it takes away from what you should be paying attention in your own home. You start seeing that somebody else is beautiful and you forget that, no, you have someone beautiful at home too. Mm-hmm. Oh, that person's so nice. Nope. Refocus. Sometimes we need this. God needs to go like this to us and refocus our love and our desires for our spouse. Because if not, the more we look this way, the more we forget what's right in front of us.
Mm-hmm. And I think that talks about all the topics that we've been talking about, being intentional, being caring, having the desire to love your spouse for who they are.
Right. And pushing yourself, because that takes commitment. When you see that you're going this way, you say, no. Having self-control and saying, refocus. God, give me the strength. I need to refocus. Mm-hmm. Lack of trust.
We can talk a lot about
deadly killer.
That's a real deadly killer.
Yeah.
When I look at lack of trust a lot when one person in the relationship has failed or something.
Mm-hmm. There's been unfaithfulness.
It's been unfaithful, or mishandling funds in financial perspective. It can be a various of things. Or you asked him or her to do something and they did something else, and that brings you, I can't trust you, not even with these things. So lack of trust, when you are not giving your spouse the benefit of the doubt that they are able to do it, even though they messed up the first time or the second time, but you not continue to take away the trust from that relationship, that can cause a deadly killer in the relationship.
Yeah, we just have to, when there is lack of trust, you just have to look for ways. You got to go out of your way, intentional, right? Be intentional about going out of your way. If you're the one who broke that trust, now you got to have some patience. We just talked about it in Ephesians, right? You got to have patience and go out of your way. Go above and beyond to build that trust again. I'll be very honest with you. Some are not going to get that trust that they used to have in the very beginning if they broke it. But I can guarantee you, and you know what? I shouldn't even say that, because through God, all things are possible. Mm-hmm. But what I am saying is going to take hard work. And if you're not willing to put in that hard work, then think twice before you think of breaking trust with someone. But if you're in that place right now where there is lack of trust, what I say to the person who made the mistake is you need to have patience and you need to go above and beyond and be intentional about building trust. Again, if you've been the one who's been hurt, what I tell you is to also have patience, but have grace.
That's right.
Just let God's grace to dwell within your heart. Unwilling to change. That's almost like, pridefulness and unforgiveness, right? Mm-hmm. Unwilling to change is something that men, I can only talk for men, I hear this thing all the time now. It's like, I am who I am. Celebrate who you are. Mm-hmm. You don't have to change for no one. And you know what? I'll challenge that. Because you do need to change. Not because it is forced upon you, but if you want to be a good human being, if you want your marriage to be solid, we have to change certain things in our life. Just because I was rude growing up, that don't give me the right to just people need to accept me that way. No, you need to change.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things that significant other, especially from a woman's perspective, I said, well, I don't need to change. They need to change. Why do I need to change? I'm fine. I'm completely fine. I think that as well, I see something wrong with that. We all have to change somehow. We if we don't work together on changing our relationship, there's nothing going to work. It's never one side and the other one is fine. You also have to be willing to change. What are the areas that you can change to make your spouse greater and stronger?
And make your marriage
solid.
Yeah.
Because it requires a solid foundation. So if one of the other is saying, well, I don't need to change because I'm the way I am, or the other person is the one that needs to change, then I challenge you too. You also need to change. Because in order for your spouse to be stronger and build a stronger foundation in your relationship, it requires for both of you to change.
Yeah. Well, our time is up. We want to thank you for joining us on I Take D Ministry on Facebook. You can follow us on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. You can look for our videos there. Again, today's topic was deadly killers. We want you to have a great day. Until next time.